Thank you so much for tuning in to the Stewart Guide broadcast with your host, Dr. Charles Burton Jr. I thank you so very much for taking a few moments of your valuable time to come in and share with us as we educate and share on multiple things that affects us and our families. Today's subject of studies, and we're going to talk about, is my crazy idea. I said, my crazy idea. A lot of times, people have crazy ideas or things that most people may have say to them that that's a crazy idea, or that's really outside the box, or I would not do that if I were you. A lot of times, these type of things that are used or terms that people say that are negative, for those who have those birth ideas within their hearts and their minds, it can be life changing to them. And a lot of times they don't want to share some of the intimate details and personal details that cause them to excel to the next level. So today, we're talking about my crazy idea. I'm going to also share with you because we're very, very transparent and we are educators here at the Stewart Guide broadcast. And I'm going to begin to share some of my crazy ideas with you. Crazy idea was to write a book. I had worked in for so many years inside of banks, and the last one when I came to get some inspiration about writing this book was because I was a credit counselor. Even thought in a million years of having any idea. I did not have any aspiration whatsoever about writing any book. I decided that, hey, maybe they might be right. Maybe I'll come and do it. So one day I was just sitting down at my computer and I didn't know anything. Let me just say this for disclosure too. I didn't know anything about writing a book. I didn't know anything about publishing a book. I didn't know nothing about nothing. The even structure of what size the book's supposed to be, how many pages that the book's supposed to be or can be, and all this type of stuff. I learned this as I went on. This was a self-published book that I did on my own. And I just sat down at my computer one day. I was just doing something. I just got inspiration to just start typing. And I just started typing about some of my experiences and some of the pitfalls of the thousands of people that I spoke to in credit counseling who are dealing with the challenges of trying to be able to make ends meet and get out of the debt that they have gotten themselves in over the years of their lives. So how I decided to do that was, okay, let me start talking about that. And then I came up with the book. As I began to write the book, I got very inspired about writing the books and started staying up late writing the book. And every day after working from my job, I come out and start writing about this book and talking about some of my experiences about in this book. Then finally, I got some knowledge that, okay, well, most books had about 100 to 125 pages, and it's a 5 by 7 page book to have a paperback book or something like that. Then I found that, okay, because you have a book for it to be published or anything like that, or have any idea of being distributed for a book publisher, then you got to get an ISBN number for the back of the book. The ISBN number is like a little barcode that goes in the back of the book to identify the book and the ISBN number tells about the category of whatever that you're talking about, food, whatever the case may be. So the ISBN number is assigned to that and it comes by you. So you pick an ISBN number, you pay for it, and then that ISBN number is identified on the product code that you can utilize that in anywhere, so they can trace where that book came from, who's the author, who's the originator or of that book. Most done in a lot of publishing companies who do that. But to make a long story short, I wanted to do this book. So, okay, I decided to get the book. When the book was completed, now it's more than just writing it. It was on the Word document in regards to that, doing the book. And it came to the point that, okay, now you have to get that book printed. That's when all the other difficulties and challenges came into. Okay, I went through all the challenges of that. I went to a printing shop. Oh, do you want one color, two color, all this type of stuff? Then I started finding out in the course of the book, just to get two course on the artwork that's on side the book is very, very expensive. Then it had to go into, oh, how many pages in the book? Then it's a course for that. Then thirdly, and most importantly, had to do with the binding of the book, because there were certain books that that you just staple together, or you see the spiral thing. That's another core of book binding. And then there's a perfect bond bullet, and all those things that you want to do to make your book look like what you may have get on some bookstore, some rack, or some forth. Those things were very, very expensive to be able to do. So here it is. I'm trying to do this book in my life, and I lived in New York. I grew up in New York, in Brooklyn, New York, and here it is just to try to get this book established. And it was black and white. I couldn't even afford to get a color. I had never made over $13,000 a year in my whole life. Uh, and now to somebody comes up and tell me this astronomical course, as you know, it was like totally out the picture. So it didn't stop me. Here at the Stewart Guide, I want you to know obstacles are no excuse for you to stop. It just means you have to find another way to get it done. And that's what I did. I found a local publisher that will allow me to be able to do my book and print my book for me. He printed like 75 books for me, and I saved up a few $100s. Took me a few months to save a few $100s to get it actually printed. And now I was excited. I had a complete work. My book was done. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to tell everybody about it. I went to my families and my friends and all this type of stuff and the local ministry that I was a part of. And I started showing them my book. Oh, you hear all the great aspirations. Oh, she wrote a book. Oh, great, great, great. So then I started asking the question, well, how many copies of this book that you're going to buy? Or are you going to buy at least one copy of the book? You know, this is where the fact of my idea was created. You know what they said to me? Oh, are you going to give me a copy of the book? Give you a copy of the book? I paid money to create the book. I had to pay money to bind the book. I had to spend my time over there to go pick up the book. And now you want me to give it to you for free. I said, well, listen, because you're family and to show me your support, I'll give it to you for half price, but it's only for you. Do you know not one of those individuals, not one, purchased a copy of my book to show me in good faith that they want to support me and make me happy, or, show me that they care, or even as we use perpetrator fraud, just young people say perpetrator fraud, that you really care, or you concerned, or you have a well wishes to my idea. Nobody did it. So you know what? I'm going to take my perfect idea. I came to myself. I said, okay, being that none of you want to support me, family, friends, and foes, I'm going to take my little crazy idea to the radio. Now, as I forestated, I had never made more than $13,000 in a year. So I went and I made an appointment. I called up the local radio station. It was a Christian talk radio station, urban gospel. And I went there with the manager. I sat down with the manager. I didn't know anything about being on the radio. Let me just say that also. I didn't know nothing about being on the radio, media, or anything whatsoever. I went and sat down with the station manager and talked to her. And I told her about what I was doing. And I showed her a little copy of my little book. And she said, okay. And I told her what was the content of my book, that it was a finance book. And I would like to put it on the radio. What she said, we've never done that before. Okay. Let me go talk to the owner of the station. The owner of the station was in the very next office over there. I talked to him, had a conversation. He said, we never did that before. He said, but you said, young man, you have something going for you here because you have the enough tenacity to come into a radio station and bring your idea with you. I'm going to take a shot on you and allow you to be on my radio station. So now you know how I may have felt. The exuberation and excitement that I had in my countenance and all over my face and my aura was like I was excited. I had made an opportunity to be able to go on a radio station. She said, the station manager said, go back there and talk to my station manager and we'll draw up a contract and see what we need to do. So now I'm sitting there in total shock about the whole idea, just to be accepted of the idea of going on a radio station. They're doing something that had never been done on a radio station. And my thing was, well, how much does it cost? That's when the reality kicked in. She said, well, how long would you like to be on the radio station? I said, oh, maybe 30 minutes or at least a minimum of 15 minutes. She said, 15 minutes would be a great thing. So I said, okay, how much does it cost? She told me on AM, 1,000 watt AM Christian Talk urban station, it would be $800 for a 15-minute segment on their station. Now, I had never made more than $13,000 in my whole life. So if I only made $13,000 in my whole life for the whole year, there was no way mathematically that I could afford to pay $800 for a 15-minute spot. So I politely, and taking my pride and humbled, I said, thank you very, very much. I'll get back to you. She said, sure. So I went home and licked my wounds. There was no way that I was going to be able to do that. But again, I still had my own crazy idea. I had my book and I wanted that to be done. That was the vehicle because it has to do with your exposure of your idea. So fate would have it, I had a car that I loved, a 2008 Lincoln Town car. It was gray, had the vinyl top. This was my little love, my little hoopty. I loved my little car. I had got it from the place in which I was employed at. They was doing us a payroll deduction, and it was my transportation. But anybody who knows about living in the state of New York is that they get a lot of snow. And this particular year, we had gotten blasted with a lot of snow. So my car was in a lot of snow. When I finally dug it out, New York is really good about moving the snow to get people around. So then one day I decided the next day I was able to get my car out. I want to take my car out for a drive just to get out of the house and go and doing that. So I started driving around the car. At this time, I was dating this lady back then and was just going to go out and get something to eat and come on back home. Well, I was going down the street and there was a big snowbank on both the left and right side. I was crossing over from one street to another, a one-way into a one-way crossing intersection. All of a sudden, I'm looking to the left, looking to the right, looking in front, nothing back. I just went, seated off of there. All of a sudden, some person was speeding in the snow. I mean, speeding. Bam! Knocked me all up against the snowbank. Totally knocking me from the middle all the way to the left-hand side of the street. And now I'm sitting there. Then this person had the audacity to come up there, open up my door. He wasn't checking on me, cursed me out in Spanish, said all kind of vulgar things, closed my door, and ran away from me. Now I'm sitting up there in a daze. I didn't know what had happened to me. And here it is, still in my heart and my mind, my crazy idea. And the one thing that I loved was my little car. Now I still have my idea, and now I'm walking. I was able to get my car back to the house, and that's when it sit. And from that, I found out that this guy did not have any insurance, no registration, and he was driving illegal. At that time, like I said, I only made $13,000 a year. So I didn't have full coverage on my car. So you know that that was a bad thing. I could not get my car fixed. But let me go with that. And later on in another broadcast, I'll talk in more detail about what I'm about to say now. Most of us are not aware on our insurance policies that there is a clause that's in that insurance policy that is called uninsured drivers. So one day I just happened to be looking at my insurance policy and I saw that little clause, uninsured insurance policy, and it was whatever the case may be, personal injury, whatever, no fault, whatever. So I called up my insurance company. Guess what? I found out under my own insurance liability insurance company that my car can be fixed or they would pay me. So I called them up. They had an assessor come to the house. They looked at my policy, said, Mr. Burton, we will give you $10,000 for your car. We're going to total out your car and give you $10,000. Now, that little crazy idea had came back to life when people thought that I was dead and I was out. So then what I did was I took $2,500. I bought me a nice little car, paid for my insurance, and then I got my insurance and all of that. And I went right back to that same radio station. And I took from my calamity that was in my life, I took $3,500 from that insurance policy, and I paid for me to go on radio with this crazy idea of this book. So when I got onto the radio station, again, nobody knew me. This had never been done on a radio station, nothing. Nothing had happened. They let me come in and I went on the radio, and that lady had told me that I never forget what she said. Miss Hernandez, she said, listen, media is about consistency and frequency. The more that they hear it, the more that they expose to you, the more people will respond. They may not respond right away. It may be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, but the more that they hear about you, then if there's a need, a want, a desire, or just a curiosity, then they will respond to you. So now I was on the radio station. I went in there, I did my 15-minute segment. I was excited to go on being there, didn't know anything about being on radio, nothing. All of a sudden, I'm expecting my phone to ring and people to call me. I didn't get nobody response the first time. The next week that I went on there, same thing, no response. Of course, that could be disheartening because you're on a radio station and all that type of stuff. You experience the excitement of being on there, telling everybody on there. No response. Going into the third week, I had to call the radio station for something else to make a payment or something like that. I had to call the station for something. Anyway, what happened was the radio doctor said, hey, man, I'm glad that you called, Doc. I said, what happened? What's going on? He said, people have been calling the station looking for you. I said, what? I said, well, why didn't you give him my number? He said, we didn't have a number for you. So what number were we supposed to give to him? Again, I told you, I didn't know anything about radio at all. I said, okay, we're not going to make that mistake anymore. So the next on my third broadcast, I went onto the station. I introduced myself, went through my presentation, and now I begin to give my phone number on the radio station over in repetition. Remember what I said. It was about consistency and frequency. So I began to tell my phone number about in that 5, 10, 15 seconds. These people heard my phone number about 10 times. And you know what happened? People now begin to call. People begin to say, hey, Doc, I really enjoyed your program. I really appreciate that. Here's my number. Call me up. Things begin to change. Now, that little crazy idea, now that little crazy book that nobody want to hear, now all of a sudden, people who didn't know anything about Dr. Charles Burton Jr. now begin to inquire and want to purchase my book. Now, the same little crazy idea that nobody want to talk about, now they want to hear what was inside of my book. Now, the same crazy idea of the people around me and people who called me to talk about what was in the content of my book. Now, my finances went from a person who made $13,000 a year. Now, I started making $850,000 a year. Can't you see how life-changing that has been? Can't you see what difference that made in my life? Can't you see that little crazy idea of writing a book that I had no knowledge of, nothing about it, didn't know anything? Now my life was changing. Now I no longer had to go into McDonald's and so forth like that, very expensive things. And I now can go to somewhere and get me a quality dinner or go to a vacation. I was able to go out of the country. I met celebrities and all this type of stuff from this little crazy idea of taking my book and going and taking it to the radio. So I'm saying that from that same premise is why the Stuart Guide broadcasting came into a brown, because I had a lot of different ideas, a lot of different programming, and all those type of things that I try to say. Now, all of a sudden, my life changed. Now, people wanted to hear what I had to say. So, that is the same thing about you. Your little crazy idea that's in you, no one can deliver that idea better than you. No one is more convicted. No one is more passionate about that idea than you. And you can do it. Are you willing to take on the challenges of what it requires for you to take that crazy idea and put it up against the thousands of people? Don't be intimidated because someone else has a similar idea. They don't have your idea. They don't have the uniqueness of your idea. Your idea is the game changer. That changed my life. That allowed me now to gain the respect of others, because now this little crazy guy from Brooklyn, New York, disadvantaged now, was beginning to be an expert in that area of financing. All the years that I spent working in the banks, all the years of working in the credit counseling, now all those things or those ideas are resolving people's issues. Now I'm talking about it and I'm educating people about it and making a difference in their life personally. And then them calling up ABC Credit Counseling or ABC Get Out of Debt or something like that. They were calling now me. And the Stuart's Guide would be able to do that, because now I'm not going to hide behind, I'm a great company or I'm a great person and all this type of stuff. I'm not going to hide around and speak to you evasively about what I did in order to achieve or accomplish things that were life-changing to my life. I'm going to share with you step by step how I got from point A to point B to point C to point E. I can talk to you about the pain. I can talk to you about the frustrations. I can talk to you about the denials and my accomplishments of what I was able to do. One of the greatest accomplishments that I have done was doing things that nobody else wanted to do. Those are the things in my life and having crazy ideas that I made the most money. I repeat, those little crazy ideas that nobody else wanted to do were the things where I made the most money from. That can be you. I can show you how to do that. And let me just say this to you. It's not how much money you have. It's where you invest your money in. What channels you invest your money in. I don't care if you're on the welfare or you're on a disability or something like that, or you're underemployed or so forth like that, or you want a life change from where you are to make your life better. The only person that can make your life better is you. It don't take millions of people to make your life change. One person, I said one person that will give you the right instruction, the right guidance, have the right connection, can change your life. That's what it did for me. And so here at the Steward Guide, I want to do the same thing for you. I want to share my experience. I want to understand your story. I want to understand what's important to you. What's important to you providing for the needs of your family? What are you doing that I can help you to get and change and make your life better? That is what it's all about. That comes from a person that's legitimately transparent, legitimately honest, has an integrity. These three qualities, you can do business with that person anywhere, any day. If they're honest, if they have integrity, and they have good work ethics, I'll work with you no matter what to help you to achieve your goal. But you have to put in the work. The thing about me and dealing with me or interacting with me here at the Steward Guide, I'll outwork a young person head over fist. You're looking at a person who was able to get through major obstacles in their lives, have disadvantages in their life, major disadvantages. So I just want you to know I'm committed to you. So if something has been said in this broadcast that will be helpful to you, as help you to get a different insight of your life, would you consider subscribing to the channel to help us with the work of what we're doing here at the Steward Guide broadcast? Or if you would like to call us in your life, you can send us an email and we will provide it lower in our broadcast. But always remember, tell a family member, tell a friend that Dr. Charles Burton is on the air. Always be a blessing to yourself first, then your family. Thank you very much for tuning in.